Professor Long is in. Professor Long, can you hear us? Can you hear us? You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. 你要把那个声音打开。
It's okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, great. You
Hey,
made
can you
it.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great, you made it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you want to try your PPT? Can you see your the screen sharing button?
Yeah, I will try.
Yeah. Great.
I share my
PPT.
Your presentation. The IGF website is coming currently.
Yeah, we can only see your
Ads and other things.
You need to show your PPT.
Yeah. It's okay?
Just a moment. Yeah, it's okay now. We can see the PPT.
Yes, we can.
I
guess we begin, Yik Chang. It's
okay.
Now.
It's a difficult step for us, and the confirmed PPT is available.
Okay. Yeah, this is it.
Okay. Can you see my PPT now? Yeah, great.
Okay. Can you stop the sharing? We have to start now. Can you stop? 你把那个 sharing 关了吧，我们要开始了。
你说把我的 PPT 先关掉吗？
对，你把那个
关掉共享。
停止共享。
停止共享，最上面停止共享。
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, let's start. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the panel. This section, which is on trust, media ethics, and the governance during the COVID-19 crisis. So, good morning, good evening, and welcome to our sections. So first of all, let me introduce myself and also my colleagues. So I'm Dr. Qin from SJTLU in China. So I'm the section's moderator. I will moderate the section with my other colleagues, Mr. Weinan Yuan from SJTLU, and also Mr. Guowei Wu from the Appellate. So this workshop actually want to discuss the public health crisis, COVID-19, on the global internet system, and also the citizens, related to the issue of the trust, media, and the information flow. So our section combines the local and the global perspectives on internet governance and also media communications. So we want to build up a platform for the speaker from China, Europe, India, and Singapore to discuss those pressing issues on an interdisciplinary and multidimensional approach from diverse geographical and the stakeholder perspective. So therefore, our panelists will speak from digital platform, audience research, policy and regulatory, and the algorithm perspective. So the issue we want to discuss today is include the role or the responsibility of digital platforms, social media, governments, and the public in articulating and empower free flow of information, and also in protecting human rights. During the COVID-19 pandemics, we also want to discuss the best practice to refiltering disinformation, fake news, hate speech during the pandemics. And most importantly, the role of technology in developing and educational program to empower citizens. And the best practice to upholding the integrity of online journalism and public trust during the health crisis. So we have 6 speakers. So let me introduce them first. So we have Professor Yun Nong from the Chinese Communication University of China, and she is the director of Digital Ethics Institute, and also the chair of the Digital Communication Ethics Division of Chinese Society for Science and Technology Journalism. Now we have the Miss Amita Chandray. She is the director of CCAOI and the president's Internet Society Delhi chapter, and the vice chair of the Asia Pacific Internet Governance Forum. And we have a Mr. Su Wang, and he is the deputy chief editor of Xinjiang Weibo in China. And we have Dr. Elena Kami. She's the postdoctoral research associate in digital media and society at the Liverpool University, UK. And we have Professor Anpan Huang. And Professor An is a professor in the WikiV School of Communication and Information at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Last but most importantly, we have Dr. Ansgar Koh. He is the Senior Research Fellow at the Horizon Digital Economy Research Institute and the Global AI Ethics. So welcome to our panelists. So we will invite each of the speakers give 8 minutes presentation, and after that, we will have 7 minutes discussion among them, and then we will open the floor to invite you to ask questions. But at the meantime, you can also post your question in the chat room and also Q&A sections. Okay, let's start. Let's invite Professor Long. So Professor Long, are you ready? Can you share your PPT? Thank you.
Yes, yes. Hi. Shall I show my screen now?
Yes, please.
It's okay?
Yeah, we can see.
Can you see? Yeah.
And
hello,
this
everyone.
is
yeah, it's my PPT. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Yuan Long. Today, my topic is about regain trust, communication governance in China and beyond in the post-pandemic era. So then coronavirus is a typical major public health event, which this epidemic, a complex and sensitive public opinion field has been formed. The challenges to the governance of communication in such an opinion context is also mixed with the overwhelming information, the most diverse communicator, and the quality of the content varies. The academic community has shown great concern about the new situation and new challenges as well. A series of academic studies analyzed rumors and truths, cooperation and competition between different media, and the credibility of different information channels, and discussed the trust dilemma, trust restoration, trust reconstruction, and the role of the government. These research results provide a Chinese context and a global perspective for communication and governance in the post-epidemic era. So if there was ever a time for the media to act as the fourth estate, holding power to account in the public interest, the coronavirus pandemic is it. The presentation we are trying to illustrate the landscape of media reports as well as China's fighting against the COVID-19, combining with relative data and case analysis, then discuss how to regain and restruct the trust of communication governance in this era. The topics and questions are as follows: the rumors and the truth and the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak, the capability of different platforms and communication channels include traditional media, social media, and other content producer. The public welfare organizations reshaping, such as the Red Cross Society of China, Hubei branch, which are related with some key issues about media ethics. The synergy and the framework competition among different media reports and how to deal with the dilemma between academic, policymaker, media, and the public, and what role media platforms as well as government playing in such a pandemic crisis. So in the article, disaster crisis and social tension, distortion of public opinion in the context of the new corona epidemic, Dr. Zhi Hui Wang from Renmin University of China analyzed the specifics based on the social tension in the context of disaster crisis. The study illustrates that first, living Hubei and Wuhan people caused by the fear and enlarged by incomplete trust in the information from the local government. The preventable and controllable remarks issued by the Wuhan Local Health Commission and governance measures. This led to desertification among the people, complete trust in the information released by local government. All are the source and sign of the trend of public opinion and the beginning of the epidemic. Second, false information, false news or rumors such as 双黄连, it's a traditional Chinese traditional medicine. 双黄连 can suppress the new coronavirus, which triggered panic and led to group behavior. The ambiguity of information released and the embeddedness of people accelerated the social reproduction process of rumors. Meanwhile, the contradictions of information release and the absence of mainstream authoritative information release have led to uncertain information in the post-truth era, interferes with the spread of public opinion, and the overflow of negative tensions has caused emotional transmission of the people. It can be seen that in the early stage of the outbreak, the public opinion field was faced with such phenomena as a crisis of trust and uncertain information. The credibility of official channels, interpersonal communication, and self-media as the information dissemination channel in the public opinion field is closely related to the trust status of the public opinion environment, and make sense of the differences in credibility of different channels should be very important to regain trust.
Just Professor Nong, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost. So the Dr. Zhang Hongzhong selected the time when Wuhan was closed and conducted a survey of netizens in 5 cities, Wuhan, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Chengdu. The study found that first, the credibility of official channels is significantly higher. than that of interpersonal communication and self-media. Second, the trust of Wuhan netizens in the place where the epidemic occurred is significantly lower. The official channels don't have any such difference in credibility among internal communication is more trusted among the middle class. The credibility of self-media about the epidemic has been
I think we are unable to hear Professor Yung Long.
Yeah, I think Professor Long, can you hear us?
I think she dropped out, Ik Chang.
Yeah, I can see it. So we just wait for her, for a few minutes.
We could perhaps continue
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
she's coming back, okay? Hello? No? Or maybe we can move to... Okay, so probably we have to wait for Professor Long at the same time, so we probably can invite our second speaker and Amita. Maybe you can jump in, and when Professor Long come back, we will shift to her, okay?
Right.
So,
thank you so much, Ik Chang. And hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Certain things which I would like to share, is that the issue related to trust online, misinformation, fake news has been prevalent for a very long time, and it has been there much before the pandemic. However, what COVID-19 did was amplify the issues, bring it out in the open and into the spotlight. So today I would be sharing the Indian perspective, primarily because I belong to India, and secondly, India presents certain very interesting paradoxes. For example, we are a country with second largest internet user base. We have nearly 70% of our people yet to be connected online. We are an emerging country with limited resources, and at this point of time, we are having more than 8.64 million people infected by COVID, and the numbers are rising. Thankfully, the mortality as per health officials is not so high. So we are at the midst of the pandemic, and we are facing it day in and day out. What we realized during COVID-19 was our dependency on the internet has grown tremendously. And in fact, all aspects of our life, be it education, work from home, shopping, interaction, entertainment, health, etc. In fact, as more and more of the citizen-centric services, information related to the pandemic moved online, it was a boon for people who had access to the internet. However, for people who did not have internet access, such as women or marginalized communities or certain rural pockets, many of these services and opportunities became unavailable or diminished, and that is a concern. Also, many of the direct benefit facilities which were provided by the government as relief during the pandemic, especially for economically backward people or the marginalized communities, was through mobile banking or internet-enabled mediums. But in a country where people do not have internet access or the cost of smartphones are really high, despite all these good intentions, this created a disbalance between the haves and the have-nots. Therefore, we realize that internet is crucial for all, especially if we want to build an inclusive and empowered society. And governments really need to focus on getting people connected and making access affordable. What we also found, like other places, was there was a surge of misinformation and fake news during the pandemic. In fact, we witnessed exodus of hundreds of thousands of migrant laborers from cities such as Mumbai, which is an economic hub, which was triggered by panic created by fake news regarding the duration of the lockdown and concerns related to adequate supply of basic necessities such as food, drinking water, health services, and shelter, because many of these migrant laborers were unemployed at that point of time. Though the government took steps to address the issues and even platforms started taking action, however, as the issue had become so viral fast, it took quite some time to manage it. Therefore, it is important for us to learn from these experiences so that we can build strategies to deal with such crises more efficiently. The Indian government, on its part, issued an advisory for social media companies to initiate awareness campaigns on their platform against such false news, take immediate action, disable and remove content on priority, disseminate authentic information related to the coronavirus. And platforms did introduce several measures to reduce the spread of misinformation, such as notifying users who engage with COVID-19 misinformation, restricting the number of forwards, broadening policies on unverified claims, or showing resources of WHO and other verified agencies related to the pandemic. However, looking at the sheer size of the issue, there is definitely scope for much more to be done. Another thing is, while the platforms were facing a lot of flack during the pandemic, we also saw a lot of good being done from these platforms. For example, this was the time when we used these platforms to communicate and stay in touch with our loved ones. It was used to mobilize resources, help people, including migrants, economically impacted people, and also help stranded people. So there was social good which happens, and this needs to be magnified. Further, during the infodemic, we also found, it also highlights the need for media literacy across different communities and sections, age groups. Governments, technology companies have come together and need to work much more collaboratively, especially with grassroots level civil society organizations, to build digital literacy and media literacy amongst people in a more concerted effort so that they are able to distinguish between authentic and fake news. Also, while government took steps to demystify the myths and misinformation being spread around COVID-19 through media such as print, television, radio, and even online, we observed another phenomenon which actually worked. This was the community health workers played a substantial role in clearing the myths in the local languages amongst communities which were far-flung or economically backward at the ground level. This combined role of online and offline campaign or initiatives actually worked very well, and perhaps we need to explore this hybrid model more if we want to actually address these issues. To conclude my initial remarks, what I think needs to be done more to build the trust deficit online is, firstly, connect everyone meaningfully, focus on media literacy. Governments and businesses need to be more transparent about their initiatives, as the opaqueness around initiatives create a trust deficit. While platforms are taking initiatives to curb the spread of misinformation, hate speech within their platforms, they need to be more transparent on their takedown policies, the way their algorithms take decisions, etc. And lastly, we need to look at innovative approaches to rebuild trust over the internet. And it has to be a concerted effort amongst stakeholders, amongst nations, so that we can, address the gaps together. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Amita. That's just on time. And also, you bring a very interesting question about platform's role. So next, we will invite Mr. Wang Shu from Xinjiang Weibo, and he actually will talk about those things. Mr. Wang, can you please share your screen with us? Thank you very much. So you can start, please. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, you can. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Oh, you can hear my voice now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Jasper, and I'm the deputy edition in chief of the Weibo. So Weibo is the largest China social media platform, and we have just more than 500 mini MAU. And now this is just 34,000 media accounts in Weibo. So today I will share some of the keys for us for saving the time. And we know if we use the international meeting, sometimes the voice will delay. So I put all the main content in the PPT, and I give a brief explanation here. So, okay. So during the outbreak and the most people work at home and people had more free times. And actually we know the social media becomes the major resource for the coronavirus information. So this is a date. The number of the visit to Weibo at peak is 9 times higher than usual. Most media accounts stay responsive 24/7 and covered any update in no time. Actually, in Weibo during these 4 months, media accounts in totally have posted 2 million related posts. And from their coverage, and we can learn about a more real China. So the social media opens the last mile of the media coverage of the epidemic situation. The last mile means that the media can not only provide valuable information, but also meet the real needs of us. Okay, let's see some example. The official account of People's Daily and partnered with Weibo and set up a special topic project called Patients Seek Help. The hospital or the patients could post Weibo and seek help in the topic project. Once was confirmed, the message will be passed on to the local government and available hospital. So actually over 140,000 people have received help within 1 month. Many people share their experience of getting help on Weibo, and some story are impressive. To identify the close contrasts of the infected is very important. On Weibo, all regional media of a search notice special column. So they were to push in the travel records and the transportation information of the confirmed case. So therefore, a closed contract may identify their risks of the infection and sum up a medical test through the fast channel. So in the 5G areas, living broadcasting is very popular. So the media covered out live broadcast of the construction of the Wuhan Huoshenshan Hospital and the Leishenshan Hospital, with totally of more than 1 billion people watching. The special product Living Charity sales for Hubei province. The hardest hit area of the epidemic is also an innovation of Weibo campaign with the media. And 10 million people watch the live, and they'll buy more than the $10 million of goods. Another rule of the media was we call it the rumor buster. And the rumor come out from the fear of the unknown. Beating rumors is one of the same important with beating the virus. So we can see in the social media, the credible media were granted a special privilege by Weibo to label the rumors. Therefore, the public could know about truth in time. During the epidemic, we can see the 740,000 posts to dispel the rumors were published by Create Media, and in totally with over 6 million forwards. Also, Weibo increased the number of staff processing the rumor complaints by 6 times. For the messages that could not be, we know, and some messages that could not be testified in a short time, so we will gather together different opinions to help us to make their own judgment. Any account that try to spread rumors or take advantage of the epidemic to increase the sales were banned as punishment. Okay, the next I'd like to share some of our thoughts and questions. Firstly, about the critical of the UGC. We know during these special areas, and we witnessed a very achievement performance of the user gets the contents. Many of them offers a huge first-hand message from the front line, but there are still no effective procedures and standards to help us to confirm whether it's true. Secondly, in terms of the balance between the free expression and the public theoretical, and we were totally around, and those who suffered from the epidemic have the right to express their anger through the social media, and they do have the demand for the informational released. However, such message could sometimes hurt other users. So how to deal with this situation, we just need some standard. Lastly, about the privacy right protection. As we try to help more people during this special time, and some personal information were revealed, such as the contrast, the travel records, living place, and their family information. That's made possibly bring trouble to the one. So a better technological solution is required. So this is about my speech. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wang Shu. And actually, here is some interesting question about how to, monitor or regulate the platform as well. And I think this question will be also touched by our other speakers, the following speakers like Professor An and Ansaka, who will also talk about the platform as well. So hopefully we will have some discussion, for following on these issues. Okay, so next, can I invite Dr. Elena Kami from the University of Liverpool to share her presentation on the audience side, how to how to empower audience, and the public during the pandemic crisis. Okay, thank you, Elena.
Hi, everybody. I just want to share my screen, and I'm really happy that I already saw. Can you see my screen, Ron?
Yeah, we can see you clearly.
Fantastic. So I saw that people are already talking about media literacies and digital literacies, and I'm really happy that the discussion is quite vibrant about that, because that's exactly what I'm working on. So my name is Eleanor Karmi. I'm a postdoc at Liverpool University. I'm working on two main projects around data literacy. The bigger one is Me and My Big Data, developing UK citizens data literacies. And it's sponsored by the Nuffield Foundation. It's a collaboration with Glasgow University and Sheffield Hallam University. The other one is the more recent one, which is Being Alone Together, Developing Fake News Immunity, which is funded by the UKRI institution. And it's a collaboration between Liverpool University and Dundee University. So I'm going to talk a bit about some of the initial findings that we already have, and I would love to hear your questions at the end. So it's really great that I saw people are discussing the kind of different definition and the differences between digital literacies and media literacies. And we have actually an article which is open access, and I'm going to share it later in the forum, where you can see how we basically analyze a lot of the literature around these things and how we wanted to propose a new kind of data literacy framework, because we felt that there are a lot of things that were missing. So in our model, we focus on three main dimensions. The main ones are, the three ones are data doing, data thinking, and data participating. So data doing, we're thinking about the everyday kind of actions that we're doing. Data thinking is the critical thinking that people need to have. And I'm going to show you the kind of activities that we were talking about. And then we're talking about data participating, which basically means how can people use data to their own benefits in their communities. So when we're talking about data doing, we're talking about accessing information, assessing, interpreting, creating, citing, and things like that. When we're thinking about data thinking, and this is something that is very crucial to us, because one of the main things that we want to emphasize is the need for people to have critical thinking, which means being aware of different data protection rights, being aware of different kind of privacy settings and what they actually mean. If you live in Europe, what does the consent mechanism means, what you can actually do with that, but also understanding how online platforms work. So a lot of different organizations, including in the UK, we have different kind of organizations that show that people don't actually know that companies like Facebook and Google are funded by advertising. And this matters because this basically means that people can have more critical engagement on these platforms and know what is their initial kind of business model and how that shapes what they see online and what kind of data they maybe want or don't want to share online. So these are the kind of critical thinking that we're talking about when we talk about data thinking. So it's not only about being aware of data protection and different kind of privacy and related things, but also to understand the online, sort of the broader online ecosystem and how does that work and how it is funded and things like that. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be a programmer and know exactly how algorithms work, but you do need to know that algorithms can, micro-target you or to create different kind of biases, to create filter bubbles and these kind of things. The last one is the data participation, where we basically talk about how can citizens use data for their advantage. So for example, create different kind of petitions, but also, for example, online hashtags to create around a specific topic. And that could be, for example, we had example in our groups of people who wanted to save their local libraries, or to motivate people to go online if they were lonely and things like that. So we identify 5 different user types in our, so in the medium of big data, we have 2 main stages. The first one was a report where we had a national survey, and then we had focus groups, which we actually are in the midst of them. So we realized that there are 5 different types of users, and the way that they differed is according to their socioeconomic status and education. So one of the most interesting things that we discovered is that although there is this myth that young people are digital natives, what we discovered is this user type, which use only social media and maybe some online websites, is that these are young people who come from poor backgrounds and who don't have higher education attainment. And these are the kind of people that we really want to focus on, because we think that it's really important not to automatically assume that if you're young, then you automatically have all of these skills, and that your background really affects the way that you engage online. So these are kind of the questions that we got from our surveys. And I think what's really interesting here is that a lot of people don't really trust social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. As you can see here, the blue represents if you don't trust them. But also, on the left side, I don't mind sharing my data with companies if they provide, but actually most people say that they do care, which means that the blue means that they don't want to share their data. Another thing that we see is that this is where we talk about critical thinking. So people don't really connect between the right side, which means that, you know, people don't want to be tracked, that their behavior would be tracked over time. But then they don't really connect that this tracking leads to the personalization of their experience. So this is the kind of thing that we think that need to be further developed. Another thing that we thought is really interesting is that most people don't think that companies provide services that make it easy for people to change their privacy settings. And a lot of people think that there's actually no point to change your privacy settings because these companies, you know, are gonna disregard this anyway. So that was from our survey. And then when we talked with people, and we've talked with people throughout October, we're going to talk with them also now in November. One of the interesting things that we found is that people's trust in social media or media in general depends on the kind of activities that they're doing. So one of the main things that we discovered, for example, is that when people want to verify information, some people mentioned that they're gonna check it on BBC and different kind of things, but a lot of people actually talk with their family or their friends. Another really important thing is that, as you saw, most people that we talked with, both in the survey, but also in the focus groups, they don't really trust social media, but they don't feel that they have a choice to go on social media. So this is something that we really want to emphasize, that trust is something that is very contingent, and it's very fluid from different kind of people, but it's not the only factor, and it really depends on the kind of activities that you're doing. Another thing that was really interesting for us is that when people want to learn new digital skills, most people mention that they use different kind of friends or, you know, the expert family member, but also a lot of people mention that they're going on YouTube to find different kind of videos that help them understand that better. So one of our sort of main findings is that unlike the past, where a lot of kind of frameworks around media literacy and digital literacy was focused on the individual, we want to focus on the networks of literacies, because what we discovered is that actually people rely on other people that they trust, which means it's their friends, it could be their families, it could be that experts, I don't know, colleague that they know. And we really want to emphasize that this is where the kind of interventions that companies or governments or education institutions should focus on. So networks of literacies are the ways that people engage with other people. It's where they engage with them and to gain different kind of understanding, skills, and competencies in ways that fit them. So another thing that's really important for us to emphasize is that there is no one program that fits everybody. And this is why it was really important for us to focus on different kind of user types, because in the end of our project, we're also gonna create different kind of education material and programs for different kind of people in a way that makes sense to them and their context and their everyday life experiences. So that was very briefly about the main big data project. I also want to show you the other project that we're working on, which is developing this kind of chatbot where people can understand better how to understand the kind of rhetorical tools that different kind of people, that could be politicians, it could be news media sites, to help people understand which kind of rhetorical manipulations that they're doing and to play with it with the chatbot. With the chatbot as well, we're encouraging people to play together and to talk about how they learn together, what kind of things they can understand better or not. Now, of course, a chatbot is not a miracle solution to these things, but what we really want to emphasize is, again, this kind of working together on different kind of critical understanding, and because we believe that this is where the power, sort of empowering people, lies. So I think I am on time. And again, if you have any kind of questions for me, I'm very happy to answer them at the end. And I'm going to post our article, which is open access, on the chat now. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Elena. And that's very interesting. We all discuss about digital divide, which are also including of the, the skill of the digital literacies. So we pass the time to our next speaker, Professor An, and from Nanyang Technology University in Singapore. And his presentation is also about a little bit related to the media literacy and digital literacy and the audience receptions. So welcome, Professor An, please.
Hi, good evening. I hope you guys can see this. Okay, so I'm talking about privacy and trying to understand how privacy connects given this current situation. And I'm talking in particular, there's a contact tracing app in Singapore. I think you've probably read some reports to say that it is the most successful. So I want to tell you kind of the inside story about that. I'm not using the full screen display because I'm getting some issues, so I want to see you all, so I'm putting it in this mode. Right?
Okay, great.
Okay, so this app is developed by a unit in the Singapore government. It's called GovTech. They use Bluetooth technology, and I learned some new things about Bluetooth. So this technology will actually be able to tell, based on the strength of the signals, how close you are to the next Bluetooth device. So the strength of technology is also, strength of the signals also involved there. And they used privacy principles from the very start. So really incorporating privacy by design. Collected the minimum information, just the phone, contact details, and that was it. But people avoided it. So it's kind of interesting to see, why and so forth. So the question that came about was, do people really understand privacy? So here we are all talking about privacy, and actually what I'm going to present shows that people don't really understand privacy. So to tell you more about this app, there's even a little logo, right? Trace together. It's voluntary installation, no compulsory installation here. Minimal information, no location data, no GPS data at all. The data is stored not in a centralized government database, but on your phone. It will be deleted after 21 to 28 days when it's no longer useful. And it can tell you how close you were to somebody who was carrying a phone and the person was infected. Based on the strength of the signal as well, right? Then all you do is upload the information to a database, and then they will contact other people who may have been infected, right? So that's kind of the principle behind it. Many governments asked about it because it incorporated privacy by design and even, quote, inspired Apple and Google to work together, which is a pretty big deal, as you would know, in this space, right? Of course, by inspired, I mean they copied, basically, right? We know how these things inspire people, right? To have Apple and Google work together from opposite ends of the spectrum, right? One totally sort of exploiting privacy, and one selling privacy as a reason for buying products and services, right? So to come together was a pretty major deal. There's some downsides. It drained the battery. I tried the version 1.0, so while sleeping, 2/3 of the power was gone, so that's not really workable. The second version, while sleeping, 20% of the power was gone. My friend since have told me that if you were to use it and carry it around, because it pings, actually you lose more power. So it does drain power a little bit. I told the government folks that it should have some success stories, but it seems to be no success stories. I don't really know. I mean, we don't hear some success stories. They talked about 25,000 contacts using that, but the actual number of cases of people infected with that number is very, very low. I mean, they're talking not even single-digit %, right? So very, very low, in terms of the contacts. And this may be why they didn't kind of publicize the contact details, right? So it means there's actually very high sort of false alarms here. So when the app came out, there were petitions against it. In fact, there are 2 petitions, and then there's a recent token that came out, and there were so altogether 3 petitions, right? Talking about contact tracing devices. Interestingly, the petitions the other way around from India and Italy, saying that, hey, you guys should get a Singapore app, because you could use it. Kind of interesting how this happens. So the last time I checked, total, 480 petitions globally speaking, right, against contact tracing. More of them, some of them are for, but mostly against. So if you look through change.org, 480 petitions, mostly against contact tracing, right? I wrote an op-ed to talk about why the people are misunderstanding it in the light of the petitions in Singapore. And I want to say first to carry on what I'm presenting. In the Singapore case, we have a very high trust environment. So if you look at this chart here, this is based on the Edelman Trust Index. Let me just show you the context of it. Edelman Trust Barometer. Singapore ranks high in the trust area, right? Other governments, the media, talking based on the index, ranks relatively low. You can see that we operate in a high trust environment. Nevertheless, right, we have a relatively low, download rate. There's an Oxford computer model saying that you need 56% There's again also some misunderstanding here. In fact, there was an academic who wrote that if you have 50%, the chance of 2% having the train tracing app would be like 25%, right? 50 times 50, 25%. That's not how this thing works. So 56% of people downloading the app in a country is enough for the country to sort of be covered. I mean, it's different thing. So 40% is not quite there. But every percentage does make, so every person downloading does contribute to this, coverage. Globally, around 20%, right? So you can see it's actually pretty low from the 56%. So my point is that people don't understand privacy, even when their lives are at stake, right? I mean, you tell me now, if I tell you that if you give me a bit of the details about you, I can contact you earlier to tell you whether you've been infected or not. And people are saying, no, I want my privacy, right? So the thing is that, sort of give me privacy or never mind, give me death, right? I mean, I did a totally private, right? But that's not all, right? Okay. We have distributed a token now, so sort of make it, and this one is like for if you don't carry the phone, you would need to carry this token. My friend, I just met him for lunch just day before, asking him about this. Why are you having this, token? And he says that so they can leave it around, so they doesn't have to always carry it around. The rest of the phone, you always carry it with you, so people can trace you. So I told him, but don't you want to know you've been infected? But it's different. So I don't quite understand. The local paper ran these big stories about, what does this token contain, showing you the Bluetooth antenna, the memory and so forth, the battery. And then there was the government come out and say that if you tamper with this, it's illegal and you'll be committing a crime, right? So people are collecting these devices, tampering with it so they cannot do what they're supposed to do, right? So people are snapping this up because they are supposed to be a little more convenient than the phone, mainly because it doesn't drain the battery. So if you move around, yes, it does drain because it is pinging. If you leave it like passive at home, you wouldn't be talking, so you wouldn't drain the battery. So people are picking it up, which suggests there's an element of sort of convenience here. So my conclusion now, and being an academic, I always end with questions. We don't give academics, we end questions with questions, right? So the conclusion is, does convenience trump privacy, or does trump death even? So or people don't understand what should trump, right? Okay, so my conclusion is your call. What is really, really important in this situation? Is it privacy? Is it convenience? Is it so that my phone battery will not die? Maybe it's living, right? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation for Professor Ang, and we probably can leave the Professor Ang's question later, and we will invite other speakers to reflect on it. So, but let us to invite Dr. Ansaga Ho first, and he will also talk about the algorithms mediation and the relationship with the platforms. Okay, Ansaga, you have the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel. So I've been involved in two main research projects, both collaborations between the universities of Nottingham, Oxford, and Edinburgh, that have been looking at really how do people understand online platforms that they're engaging with. What are their kinds of concerns regarding these? So the first one was the Unbiased Research Project, which was really focusing on how younger people understand their engagement with online services, with social media, search engines, recommender systems, and those kinds of things. So the target group there was 13 to 17-year-olds. And this project has been followed by a second project called Reintrust, which is focusing on two user groups, one being young adults, so 18 to around about 30, and the other elderly adults, so 65 plus, and really trying to understand, are there differences in factors that will make people feel that they can trust the platform that they're engaging with, depending on the kinds of age group. I will be putting some links regarding the project websites for these into the chat after my talk. So one thing that is important from our results that we've gotten from engaging with these stakeholder groups is that many of them feel the kind of information that they're receiving about how social media platforms operate, or the content moderation, those don't really address a lot of their underlying concerns. They're basically being presented with instructions like do this, do that. Like if you're getting a message, you should check what is the source of the message. You should be doing, look whether you can find corroborating messages on other platforms and those kinds of things. But what they feel is often lacking is an actual understanding of what is the basic premise on which these recommender systems operate. What is the business model of a social media platform? As was mentioned earlier by Eleanor, the fact that they don't really understand how does Google or Facebook make money is one of the things that is driving their concerns in not being able to really know how they should gauge their trust in these kind of contents. And so, for instance, in the current research project, the Re-Entrust one, when we were talking to the two different user groups, the young adults and the elderly adults, an interesting difference regarding what they really consider important for deciding whether they're going to trust this particular platform that they're engaging with, is that while the younger adults were really referring to their experience online with the platform, whether, and a lot of that experience was basically around whether it was performing adequately, whether or not, when you put in a request, it actually gave you results that seemed to answer your kind of question. Whereas the more older user group often referred actually to their understanding of the business or the organization. More, did they feel that the organization reflected the kinds of values that they feel are important? And so it was really actually separate from the way in which the technology operates, their kind of judgment of whether they would trust this content. Now, I think one of the important aspects that has been coming out from our thinking also around, where does this problem with misinformation and disinformation come from, particularly around the use of social media, is also the way in which people actually engage with social media platforms, and really the psychology around critical thinking. So one of the things is, if you ask somebody, here's a news story, do you think that do you believe this or not? You're triggering them to actually engage with critical thinking around this, and they will often do a proper assessment and will not accept the fake news kind of story. However, the way in which a lot of these platforms operate with push notification, you are not fully engaged with the social media platform. You're just holding your mobile phone, it pushes out a news story, you're seeing it sort of in the corner of your eye. You are not critically engaging with the content. You may not even be fully reading it, but same as the basic premise behind a lot of advertising, it's really not so much about reading and engaging with the story. It's about just having the headline appearing frequently. Basic psychology of humans is, if you've seen something frequently, it makes it more likely that it is true. And so if you just keep hearing somewhere in the corner of your eye, 5G is related somehow to COVID, if you were to really read it and critically engage with it, you would immediately dismiss it. But you're just always seeing this, and in a sense, it becomes an underlying thought. So one of the issues really is around this model of the way in which information is being pushed out to people who are not critically engaging with the process. They weren't actually in a mode of saying, I want to be engaging, looking for news at this point in time. Another aspect that I would like to raise is, and which, for instance, nicely connects to this example that was also listed in the Q&A around, for instance, is 5G connected to COVID. A lot of the misinformation campaigns that we're seeing related to COVID are actually building on long-standing misinformation campaigns that have been out there. stories about that mobile phone transmission would somehow be leading to diseases. Previously, a lot of the links that were being proposed in this fake news was around things like, does mobile phone transmissions cause autism, or so those kinds of things. And it's basically just building on those existing narratives and slightly shifting them over to say, well, at this moment, the health condition that everybody's concerned around is COVID, so we'll just tweak the story and say it's not autism, it is COVID that we're going to link it to. And we see a similar thing with the anti-vax movement, for instance, which has been co-opted into the whole QAnon kind of narrative. So a lot of these misinformations that we're seeing relating to the COVID condition are basically building on an underlying kind of narrative of misinformation that has been going on. And just to connect to one of the other questions that came up in the Q&A, which was around why have certain governments engaged differently with the COVID situation than others, there we also actually see that it's been building on a prior narrative of how do these various governments engage with experts, engage with the scientific community. In the UK, for instance, there was already an ongoing narrative of criticizing experts and researchers in various fields, which was used in the run-up to Brexit and those kinds of political domains. And that kind of built a sense of disconnect between health experts and the kind of engagement that was being built in the narrative. And so that it's again a case of it hasn't come up from nowhere within the COVID situation, but is really building on an ongoing narrative of misinformation that was already present. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ansgar. I think that's a very good kind of conclusion of all those issues we have discussed so far. So before we open to the floor and to the questions, I would just ask all the speakers probably can share some thought on 2 questions I think we have discussed so far. So first of all, I would like to ask everyone whether you can share like the trust, whether your people in your locality knew the business model of the social media, whether they have a trust of the social media. I think we have people from different society. Probably it's interesting to know that the knowledge of the local peoples, their knowledge in terms of the social media and their functions. Can we start with the Professor Long? Can you say something about Chinese situation? The role of the social media and the people's understanding of the business model, how could they, how do they work in the pandemic situation, and also, yeah. Hello? You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, please.
Yeah. I think in China, during the pandemic, the broken time in the beginning of this year, the investigation shows that in social media, maybe more credibility than the official media. Yes, because but some difference between Wuhan city and other big cities. The difference is in Wuhan, the citizen is low trust of the social media, but in other cities, especially the young people, pay more attention on social media, and they understand and trusted social media than official media. Yeah, this is the case in China. Yeah, so I think maybe in other cities, in other countries, not the same, but in China is very, very special. And after that period, the official media is more and more powerful, and the people have more trust to the official media. after the January and February. Yeah, this is the situation in China.
Okay, that's interesting. And Mr. Wang Shu, because you're from Xinjiang Weibo, and do you agree that the social media like Weibo has gained more trust than the traditional media? And because you also mentioned actually you do not know how to moderate some, hate speech, even the illegal contents, but that is surprising because even without even not in the pandemic time, you should have some rules to follow to moderate the content. Is that right? 你明白的我的问题就是说，为什么会在中国会是那个大家会信任那个 social media 多一点？像你们新浪微博，平时你们是什么样的去过滤那些内容的？因为你之前也说不知道怎么过滤。I just do a translation for.
Okay, no problem. Okay, and just as I answer some questions for the moment, and as a social media platform, and we will not to take defined and users post as rumors, and we are not to judgment for these things. Actually, we give the right to the government and some the medias, and we know and the medias in China just have some the different background. It's a different situation just than the other countries, because the most of the media, the PGC and in China, and they have the government's background. So we can trust for this, and because they have very strict rules and just some the strict processions and to post the information. So the people in China is always trust the media, and sometimes, and if we just want to post some important information, just for example, it's about how is the coronavirus and how to defend the coronavirus, and maybe some cities, and there is how much the patients of the coronavirus is now in the city, and how to use the right medical care for their for them, and we always to let the just big the media to post this information to the public. So that is to be honest, and it is true, and the people always trust for this, and we will use this channel. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wang. So how about the other speakers, panelists? Can you share some of your country's situation, like in India, whether people trust more social media than traditional media?
So if I look at the Indian perspective, it is mixed, as in there is a section of the people who are the new users of social media or instant messaging. They believe whatever comes to them, especially in instant messaging, because it comes from someone whom they know. So they kind of relate to it. And I kind of agree to Eleanor in when she says that people like to believe what aligns to their thought process. So there is a section of people who believe it. However, we did speak to a lot of young students late last year, and we found that they do not believe everything which is online. However, they do not have any alternate to get information, because they do not read traditional newspapers, and neither do they like to spend much time looking at television. There is a section of educated people who are now getting aware of, what they're doing online, whether it is harming them, whether it is beneficial, how the companies are monetizing this information and everything which they are getting for free. But by and large, people still believe the information they are getting, and that is why misinformation is also flourishing and being spread across, because most people believe what comes. If someone says, okay, you have this, it will help you to prevent coronavirus, they find it the easier way to use this rather than looking at something else. So that is why education, capacity building on how to manage the kind of information which comes is important.
Yeah, and Singapore, I think Singapore people also have more trust than social media.
Yeah, I think nobody says that they believe social media. Nobody, I have not heard anybody say that, right? So like, okay, I'm smart, I don't believe social media. But when it comes to applying it, they believe the social media, right? It's like, you know, I believe in God, but never mind, let me cheat this other guy, right? You know, or let me avoid paying taxes and let me cheat in taxes. So I believe in God, but never mind, let me cheat. So there is that, you know, disjuncture between, you know, what they say and what they actually do. And so we see this, yeah. So it's also present in Singapore, unfortunately, yeah.
As Alina says, you know, even people use social media, but they still more trust like Guardians, BBC. So do you think this is an issue of the decline of the mainstream media or trust media in your country? If they have a more trustable source like a BBC or Guardian, they may not less rely on social media?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, everyone, I mean, you just, if you have any idea, you can jump in here.
I do have to say that actually from our focus groups, what we discovered is that a lot of people, so I think social media as a whole is the wrong way to look at it. So for example, in our focus groups, most people thought that Google search and YouTube are trustworthy to look for information. And this is where our data thinking is really crucial, I think, because people don't understand the kind of information that Google presents to you both on YouTube and on Google search is very skewed, and it depends on a lot of factors. And I think like Amrita said, a lot of people don't feel that, especially young people, are not exposed to other kind of more traditional media. However, a lot of news from more traditional media is then shared through different kind of means. So we discovered that WhatsApp is, at least in the UK, the most common way to share information and news between people. So I think that when we're talking about social media as a whole, we need to distinguish between different kind of social media. And I'm guessing that in Asia, we will see different kind of patterns. And I think that it's quite important, as I said, to have people to have these kind of critical tools to be able to identify how these companies have power to shape which kind of information reaches them and what to do about it.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah.
Okay. Hi, Jane. Okay, I would like to add a point. It's okay?
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just want to just some more point in. Just I say just the in China the media and the media account in the social media platform, and where to get the credibility. I just want to say the media can also make some mistake. We can see this mistake, but they often apologize to the public on social media when the media and make the mistake, and which is timely and very truly. So just sometimes the mistake is want to factor their credibility. So it's true.
Okay, thank you.
Can I join in?
Yeah, Isaac wants to say something. Can we?
Yeah, I just wanted to actually, to a large extent, build on also what Shuang just said. Unfortunately, we have also been seeing that the so-called traditional media have been copy-pasting stories from the social media with very little background checks at times. In part, this has to do with high levels of competition in that space, the reduction in funding for journalism, and sort of the need to get the story out there as quickly as possible so that you won't be scooped by somebody else. And then they don't take the time to do the fact checking themselves. So they push out the story that was basically picked up from social media. Afterwards, they may or may not do fact checking and may or may not publish an apology. Obviously, it depends on which particular media we're talking about. This tends to happen more with the so-called tabloid kind of media. But a lot of people have been reading those kinds of media as their main source of news as well. So unfortunately, it is not necessarily the case that the traditional media are that much more trustworthy in this kind of high competitive environment.
Okay, thank you.
Can I join it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think I just posted in the Chatbot, basically the social media. I think the term of the name of the social media is a kind of misleading. I think you are in the, the study in the media theory. You know that, social media actually is not a media. It's just a chat wall. The people just, without checking and without editing and publish the whatever they want to say on the chat wall, And I think the social media, this term is a little misleading, basically from my point of view. You can take it easy, you can laughing on it, you can take a humor, and you can share some of your information. But if you really like to take it serious about anything published in the social media, that basically is quite wrong. And I think we should educate the young people to understand social media is not a media. Media basically have a code of conduct. The media have a certain process to publish the information, and the social media without those process.
No, but
any feedback? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
so I would say I agree with Kuo that a lot of sort of content that can be thrown up on social media is more or less stream of consciousness thinking. Something came to my mind, I'll throw it up there. However, if we're thinking about the way in which people are actually engaging with social media, they're not just using it, especially if we're thinking about something like social media platform like Facebook, for instance. They're not just using it to engage with the messages that are coming from other users. These platforms have also become a conduit for the traditional media to communicate their information to people. So, and I mean, Facebook has been building that as part of their business model. They've been pushing to try and get for them to be the platform that you're on, even if you want to read the story from The Guardian, that you're supposed to read it through Facebook. And one of the problems is that the way in which the notification of what is the actual source of this information, does this message come from The Guardian or from somewhere else, it's often easy to overlook, to not catch that little notification in the corner or whatever that is supposed to tell you what the source is of this information, and then it becomes blurry. I was just reading a story from the main news source, then the next thing that came up is actually a story without any kind of source reference to it. But I was just in a mode of reading news stories, and these other things got in between, and it sort of gets back to the point I was making earlier about how the ability to critically analyze the different news stories. Do I realize what kind of a system I'm currently engaging with?
Anga, I agree. I think that social media, also the media, all learning and also changing. And but at this moment now, it's still too early to say the social media is a media. And the second point I like to mention about that is I just don't like the social media have the right to filter. Who give them the right to filter whatever they think you are not, not allowed to publish, and it's kind of weird. It's not, that's kind of strange.
If I can intervene, I actually disagree with the whole notion of social media are not media. I think the way that we define them should be different. I think that, my glasses are media. A lot of things are media. And actually platforms, different Facebook and Twitter and these kind of companies want us to think of them as social, but actually they define how sociality is conducted in them. And the kind of things that you're talking about filtering with either content moderation or with algorithmic ordering is editorial decisions that they are making in different parts of the communication channels. And this is the kind of definition is actually very disputed, because if they would be actually called media companies, they would have the same regulations that broadcasters have, like television and radio and news, newspaper, television, radio. So I think that this is the reason why these companies don't want to have the kind of the tag word of media, but they are definitely a multi-type of media. We can communicate there, we can share other types of media. So I disagree that it's not media, but I definitely think like you that we definitely need to regulate them and to start destabilizing the huge power that they accumulate in shaping how we understand news, information in our societies.
Okay, thank you. And Professor An, please.
Okay, so thanks. I'll try to make it quick. So, Koi, I'll still have dinner with you if you can, right? But I have to say you are wrong. Okay, let me just say up front, right? I just had a test with my students on this point, the impact of social media on journalism, right? So the example I gave actually in the class was this, right? So nowadays people ask, they don't like search for advertisements, they were like post social media, I need a room, where can I get a room? And people will respond, and I'm amazing. My own daughter did that, just post social media, I need to rent a room, where do I go? And then people respond. Similarly, they were like, okay, is this place flooded or not? Was this road flooded? Now I see the news, the rain, is it flooded or not? So social media people will respond, right? So you see that they're getting news in this form. It's really news, in the sense that it's usable news, can use right away, right? So that's a problem. There is a blurring of line. It's what you might call, the term we use in fact is snacking. Where you take a bit of bite of the news. It's not like what you and I would, we're about the same age, we read and quote articles and so forth, right? So the way they're reading news is quite different, and there's a definite blurring of lines. I myself posted on like Medium, and now the Substack, right, where you can actually post anything you want, almost anything you want, and in the way you create your own news and medium, right? So the point is that the social side is coming up, and they're taking away, so that's the content part of it, and they're taking away advertising as well. So to all intents and purposes, they are really competing head on with the media. If you want to go to this place, you know whether it's flooded or not, is it safe or not, has it got good restaurants or not, who do you turn to? Normally you turn to the media in the past, but now these guys don't. They turn to social media, to each other actually. So in a sense, I'm closer to Eleanor here, that really there's this blurring of line. It's continuum. It's not one like this or that, but really a blurring of lines. And now we're all wrestling with how do we manage it so that it doesn't give out false information, fake news, and make it trustworthy. This is kind of the issue we're wrestling with, right? Okay, Koi, right.
Well, for all of you actually is an expert in the, well, just one short comment about that. I agree that, but my point is, should we give the same regulation for the social media and the media company?
Okay, thank you, Koi. So Mr. Wang Shu from Weibo, you are from social media,
Okay, okay. And we always call, and we are the social media platform. So because in my opinion, I think all the media is social media. The whole process of the media, the operation is highly social. So in China, and just most of the media must become an app on our phone, on our mobile phone can be survived. So we don't think, and this is different between the media or the social media. Just only the different become between the media and the social media platform. So we will call it just like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or the Weibo, WeChat. It's just the social media platform, and just to be a platform, and we only to do the technological approach, and sometimes we more like a post office and transport the information, but we don't protect the information. So I think, and when we talk about the media, and which we need to confirm, and how is the media's the background? So it's a company, it's UGC, it's a organization or this is a government. So I think it's things. Okay.
So you do not think the social media like Sina Weibo should subject to the same regulation as the traditional media, is that right?
Yes, we just a platform. We just is to transport the information, but do not to project information.
Okay, that's their opinion. They're not so media. They're only a platform. Okay.
Yes.
So okay, great. Any other opinion from audience and any other questions? Want to? Yeah, we got I got one question from the Marx. Just one moment. So his question is that the younger generation is generally more skeptical of news from social media source. Do you think that the information consumed and interpreted by the different age group creates a stronger generation divide across the world? Anyone want to respond? Okay, Amita, please.
Yeah, though I did mention here that it would not create a generational digital divide, primarily because there may be certain issues where the different age groups may be aligned, and there may be certain issues like in real life, they may be not aligned, so it would not create a generational gap. When I look at India perspective, between the economically different sections, children who have internet access readily available, they are more skeptical about what comes on the social media and different messaging platforms. However, new users or people from economically backward sections who are new, have not had much exposure, they kind of lap up all the information. So I don't think it would be a very great diverse divide, but it would be normally like we currently have in our real lives, wherein there is a generational divide, but not significantly. It would be on the thoughts.
Okay.
If I can chime in, I just want to say that from what we see in our research, actually the divide and the social inequalities come from people who are already excluded. So people who have who come from lower socioeconomic status and also who have lesser opportunities for better education. So I think that if we want to strengthen young people as well as older people, we need to first tackle the other social inequalities that we have, and that will, bring everybody to similar levels.
Okay, so thank you very much for all the comments. So we have only a few minutes left. So I just want to each of you give one sentence to conclude your presentation. What is the kind of policy recommendation you would give to the policymaker to improve the trust in the media environment and in the internet governance in general? Yes, please. One sentence, thank you, to conclude your presentation.
Get everyone into the table, not take a top-down decision, and really involve communities when decisions are taken, especially when it relates to those communities.
Yeah.
I would say provide data literacies to different kind of communities, tailor it according to their needs and according to their everyday life, and to focus on the networks of literacies in order to strengthen everybody.
Yeah. And
I would say, educate the young as early as possible. What is trusted information?
And Professor Long?
I would say the digital government and the informative citizens is equal important in this kind of issues. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Wang?
Okay. I want to say, and actually we have to believe in social media because we don't have no other choice. The whole world is under the influence of the social media. So we must to accept this, just like this.
Professor Ang?
I don't have, I end not with a statement, but a question. How come people don't understand privacy, Is it more important than their life? I don't understand this one.
Yes.
And I
please
would
answer.
add to this, recognize that close to 1/3 of users of online media, especially social media, are young people below the age of 18 who have recognized extra kinds of needs for protection. And we need to recognize that we cannot expect all of them to do the same level of kind of assessment of quality. So we need to take that into account when thinking about how to craft proper regulations.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we got one last question and just posted here is from Gay Berger. His question is asked whether we should have distinguished regulatory dimension between the social media and the traditional media. Social media intersect. Should we have a different regulatory dimension regarding to the social media and traditional media?
Well, my point is the government learn very slow. So it's not enough time for government to really understand how to regulate the social media. But coming soon, no?
Okay, thank you. And any other response? Okay, so if now, so we probably is right, the regulatory framework comes slowly. We will see what happens next. But anyways, thank you very much for all the panelists and the participants. Thank you very much. So we close our panel here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ik-Chan.
Thank you.
Moderating it.
Thank you. You do a wonderful job. Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
good.
Everybody.
Good night. I will say good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. See you next time.
Kowe, I'll see you. Hope to see you.
Yep. See
Bye, Ik-Chan.
Bye,
Okay.
bye.
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 you in Taiwan.
Thanks, yeah. Okay, bye. Thanks for organizing this, Ik-Chan.
Bye.
See you in Long, yeah.
Bye, Professor.
Bye. Okay.